a Simcha in Israel, a bris, pre-COVID-19 days. So there was a big crowd at this bris. The father of the baby went to Yerushalayim to request one of the noted giant Torah personalities to be the sandek at the bris, to be the one who would hold the baby while the male actually performed the bris milah. It is a tremendous honor, and having a great Torah scholar is considered to be a vehicle of bringing greater schus and bracha, merit and blessing to this newborn young man. It appears from the way the shaila, the response is written, but maybe the father of this baby might not even have had such a close relationship with this unnamed Torah scholar. But it is noted that he did not live in Yerushalayim. So when the great rabbi, the Talmid Chacham, accepted the invitation to be the sandek and to be willing to travel a distance to get to the bris, the father was more than honored and was very, very ecstatic. Comes the day of the bris. The group is gathered, and something happened, which, to tell you the truth, when I am a Masada Kedushin for a wedding or helping to organize a bris in the rabbinic role, I encourage the Baalei Simcha to make sure that everybody knows what their honor is for the given ceremony. Let them be positioned properly, let them be aware, and let the host or whoever has been designated for this job be able to take attendance so they don't call out a name of someone who's not there. But this organization was not part of this bris. And so when the individual who was honored with calling out the honors, he announced, per the instruction of the father of this newborn, he announced that the grandfather of the baby is honored with Kisei Shel Eliyahu. Now the Kisei, which means chair, the chair of Eliyahu, our tradition is the Eliyahu Hanavi is present at all bris milah, and we have a chair that's designated in his name. And before the Mayo would start the bris, while having a sandek sitting in a different chair, the minhag is that somebody is honored with placing the baby on this Kisei Shel Eliyahu, seat of Elijah. Many of us have undoubtedly seen that happen one or more times. Well, the grandfather was not informed in advance of his honor, and he was ecstatic. I'm being honored. I'm being called up. First, he was like startled and a little bit uncertain, and he was like in his own thoughts. And he needed to calm down for a few moments. And then he broke out in a beautiful smile. And he heads up front, and he sits down in the chair of the sandek. The chair designated for the sandek, not the chair of Elijah, which he was supposed to put the baby on. He didn't go up carrying the baby. Normally, the kvata would pass the baby over to who's ever honored with placing the child on the Kiseh Shel Eliyahu, and this person being honored would place the baby on the Kiseh Shel Eliyahu, and either he or somebody else being honored would take the baby and pass it over to the Sunday. But here it is, the grandfather of the baby, up front in front of all of these people, with his hands ready for somebody to put the baby in his hands and on his lap. And the father of the baby is feeling all this tension, which others are too, because most of the people understood that it was supposed to be the placing of the baby on the Kiseh Shel Eliyahu that was the next step, not to go right to the Sunday. So everybody almost, except the grandfather, understood there was a lot of tension and uncertainty. Now, in truth, I don't really know what happened at this bris. I think we can all guess, especially after I tell you the rest of the story I have to tell you. But this is one of the questions, and on the spot, an answer had to be made. And then somebody goes to his Rebbe, in this case, Rabbi Silberstein, to double check if they made the right decision or not, just in case it happens again. So this father, sometime after the bris, either the same day or the next day, went to ask Rabbi Silberstein what should have been done. And Rabbi Silberstein said, well, I want to tell you a little bit about a procedure we read about in the Torah, in Sefer Devarim, in Parshas Shoftim. We read about various preparations that need to be taking place when the nation goes out to war. According to the Rambam Maimonides, what I'm about to tell you only applies in an optional war, where the king, for example, has decided that the boundaries need to be extended for whatever reasons, but in a battle, in a mitzvah battle, which would include the battle of self-defense, to the Rambam, the following does not apply. But in the optional war, there's a special Kohen whose job is to make an announcement to the potential soldiers. And he tells the soldiers there are 4 exemptions from going to this battle. If you built a house and have not yet lived in the house, you're exempt from going to battle. If you have planted a vineyard and have not yet had the opportunity to eat of its grapes, which is a longer process because you have to wait 4 years, you are exempt from going to battle. If you are halachically engaged to get married and have not gotten married, you are exempt from going to battle. And if you have a fear about going to battle, which our sages tell us is actually a fear because a person knows he has some sins on his record, and he fears that those sins may be a great liability to him and maybe to his comrades, that person is exempt. And Rabbi Yossi Haglili says that in truth, there's only one exemption that was really needed, and that was for the person who feared his sins and did not want to go to battle, but to protect his dignity and not to embarrass him. Hashem created 3 other categories of exemptions. So anybody who did take the exemption and not go to battle, the odds are people would say, oh, either he just built a house they didn't live in, either he planted a vineyard which he hasn't eaten from yet, or he's engaged but not yet married halachically, and they would assume that those are the reasons that the person didn't go into battle, even though he qualified by age to going into battle. That all of this was done in order not to embarrass a person. and answered Rabbi Silberstein to this father of just a recently circumcised boy that there's no doubt that that is what should have been done. And protecting somebody from embarrassment is the greatest schus merit that you could bring to that young baby. Of course, what Silverstein says, what should have taken place is that the Talmud Chacham, the rabbi who was asked to be the tzaddik, since he was a Torah scholar, he should have been asked what to do. We might assume that that's what the person did, and the Talmud Chacham, passed on his honor, and maybe this man just wanted to make sure that that really was a valid halachic response, and that he was limited in the amount of apologies he had to extend. Rabbi Silberstein added that he was aware of a very similar story. It also took place at a bris. The difference was that as soon as the kvatin, at the bris, usually the kvatin are holding the baby outside the main room where the guests are gathering. And the kvatin, sometimes there's more than one, and that's okay too. That honor of holding the baby and bringing the baby into the room was given to a run-of-the-mill observant Jew. But there was a distinguished Talmud Chacham who had been invited to be the tzaddik and who agreed and was present. And this ordinary Jew, when they put the baby into his hand to carry into the room, he not only carried it into the room, but he went straight up front into the seat of the tzaddik, sat down, baby on his lap, all ready for the mayel to perform the bris at the instruction of the father who actually had the obligation to do the bris. And again, there was a lot of tension, but in this case, the father did look to the Talmud Chacham. The Talmud Chacham said not even a single word, but by his facial expressions indicated to the father, leave it alone. Let that person stay in the seat. Let him be the tzaddik. And that's the way it was, which means I even skipped over the stage of putting the baby on the kiseh shel Eliyahu. But to spare the embarrassment of this person, all that was done. When the bris was over, the father went over to the Rav that was asked originally to be the tzaddik, apologizing for the mix-up, and the Talmud Chacham told him, this is the greatest thing that could have happened, and it's to the tremendous schus of this young man as he grows up in life. The baby was named Aryeh Leib. It turned out that his last name was Finkel. He was from the dynasty of the Rabbanei Finkel, who served as the Rosh Yeshiva of the Mir Yeshiva. So the episode brought great blessing to him and to Klal Yisrael. May we always protect the dignity of all that we interact with. Have a Shavua Tov. Let me unmute us all.